Incredibly, it has been 22 years since Biffy Clyro released their debut album called Blackened Sky. And this week in London, they played the whole thing from start to finish at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. And it was the first of 3 nights of them playing a full album from their very earliest day. So Blackened Sky was the first one. Second one was the Vertigo of Bliss. And finally, Infinity Land. And I got to go to the Blackened Sky gig because the gods that are Ticketmaster decided that I had one of the lucky clicks of refresh on their website, and I was blessed to be able to buy some tickets. I hate the way you have to buy tickets these days for things, but it was a small venue. It was 2,000 person capacity, I think, in the Shepherd's Bush Empire. So tickets were like gold dust. I was very lucky to have a chance to go along with my brother and see what was a very formative and important album for me in my life. That album is incredible. It's very progressive, but also has wonderful choruses and some great delicate moments. And do you know what? Biffy Clyro have been consistently good at that exciting initial level ever since. And what they were doing at this gig was they would play the full album from start to finish and then play some hit songs or other, special snippets from the rest of their career later on as well. So there I was, excitedly waiting in the venue for them to come on stage. And before I get into the details of the set itself and what the experience was like, if you find yourself enjoying this video and you want to see more things like this in future, let YouTube know for free by hitting the subscribe button. Entirely up to you. But anyway, turns out I wasn't the only YouTuber there, at least that I happened to notice. I looked up into the rafters and there were a couple of lads there from TPD TV, which is surprisingly hard to say, TPD TV, who I've enjoyed some of their festival vlogs in the past. And so they were up there to enjoy the gig as well. It's very nice to see them there. Now, I was not able to get tickets to the other gigs, and the Blackened Sky was the one I was most interested in trying to get to, so I was very grateful to be there for that one. Now, what I love about Biffy Clyro is they've done this in a beautiful way. They could have, I'm sure, if they wanted to, make 3 gigs at the O2 Arena, for example. They're a very popular band in the UK, and do 1 night per thing, but they went for Shepherd's Bush Empire. They went for an intimate 2,000 or so people, beautiful setting. I really like the Shepherd's Bush Empire. The inside looks like a theater. Because of the intimate and close vibe that creates is probably what their decision making was there. You can hear every single voice from the crowd shouting out, calling out some things, Mon the Biff, all the rest, but also shouting out the lyrics at particular moments. And it was a very connective, unifying moment for everyone that was there. And for them to walk on stage and you just know in your head they're going to open Blackened Sky from the start and go all the way through. So you know what songs are coming. All your favorites are going to be there at some point, and the anticipation was enormous. What I also loved is that they didn't have a very interesting backdrop. They didn't go for big lights and lasers as they do at some of their other shows. There were no smoke machines. This was just a few guys on stage with their instruments, very minimal lighting. It was as if we got to see the gig that we wish we had seen back when Blackened Sky was out. I was never able to go and see them live in concert when that album was available. I heard them from outside a tent on the smallest stage at Reading Festival many, many years ago, but I never got to experience these songs live. So, very cool that they had this minimalist setup for this particular gig. And also, there were no click tracks. And it was very apparent because some songs within the same song, they would slow down on purpose, like tremendously, and just momentary drum fills or the rest. He would really wind down the tempo before going up to a normal speed. So they're able to play and have a bit of fun with it. It does also mean that some songs were played a little bit faster than on record, which is quite tricky for some of the parts for them to keep up. They did a pretty good job. There's like one song, I think, that it got a little bit kind of messy and sloppy because the drums were very complicated, as were the guitars trying to match up with them. But those were very rare moments. For the most part, they all locked in unison, which is really impressive because they don't normally play these songs. So they don't have 20 years worth of playing these songs to get them really tight as they would have maybe some of the bigger hit singles, for example, in the later records. So, and in fact, one of the songs they played, they said it was only the second time they've ever played it live. Let me try and remind myself what the actual name of that song was. Solution Devices, I believe it was. The second time ever playing it. The last time I played it, according to NME.com, was in 2005. 20 years ago, almost, since they played that song live. So there are moments like that that were pretty unique and special to be able to hear in that environment. And actually, that song that they pointed out, they crushed. I thought they did an excellent job of that one live. It was tricky but they did manage it. But I loved the raw and rough and ready lack of click that they had. Again, it sort of felt like we'd gone back in time a little bit and got to experience these songs as they would have been back in the early days. You could tell how excited this audience were to hear these rare songs live for the first time, either ever for them or in a long time for Biffy, because the jumping and moshing, as much as prog rock fans mosh, not quite the same as you'd find in sort of heavy metal gigs, but the moshing, jumping around happened pretty consistently throughout the set, and also people shouting at the top of their lungs the lyrics. Justboy, for example, was a massive favorite. Everyone was shouting along to that one in unison. Just joyful sort of group experience for these that are genuinely wonderful songs that, because it was on their debut album, don't necessarily have the scale of audience that I think they might deserve. The song that seemed to go down the best was 57, which was like the biggest single, I believe, of that era. That's the first music video of theirs I'd ever seen. And yeah, that one went off massively. It's got an excellent chorus, which is sung by the drummer in particular. But it's one of the ones that showcase how each of the key three musicians within the band provide their own vocals. And depending on the moment of the song, they do that in unison or have different parts that they play. It gives them amazing optionality for how they might arrange a song and some vocal bits and pieces. But yeah, very cool to have seen that one live in particular. That one took the roof off. But for me, one of my favorites that I was most looking forward to was Christopher's River, which is a mellow song. It is not like a big, epic rock slammer. It is a delicate, almost acoustic sort of feel to it. But I just think it's beautiful. The lyrics are so picturesque, and I was absolutely overjoyed to have the chance to hear them perform that live, which I'd never done before. So that for me was maybe the one song actually I was looking forward to the most and enjoyed the most as an experience. You really did feel like this was something kind of special to be able to be there for that song in particular, for me at least. And similarly, the closing song of Scary Mary was another gentle, beautiful song that really capped off that first set. I say first set because there's two of that special evening when they played that album from start to finish. They did a phenomenal job. I didn't hear any mistakes, really. There was some kind of cluttered moments where they didn't feel entirely in sync on a particularly difficult song, but for the most part, I mean, Simon Neil, certainly, I didn't hear him put a single note wrong. A really phenomenal note. Oh, there's one moment when the bass cut out for a bit, but I think that might have been the second side. But we're talking about very minor things that can happen at gigs. It's not like they're not, professional or proficient enough that those things would not happen. This is part of the fun of the danger of a live gig, is some moments like that. So once they'd finished the album, they said, "Don't leave, we're coming back." And I was kind of confused, like, why you gotta tell us? We know, go off stage for a couple minutes, come back. They went off stage for like 10 minutes. We did start to wonder, are they coming back? Thank goodness they told us, because it was a long break. But in fairness, they just played 12 songs from an album start to finish, and then they came back on stage and played another 13 songs. Like an entire hour and 10 minutes or so. I mean, I was getting pretty tired because I'm an aging person. But they played a selection of songs, hits or deep cuts from other albums. Now, I was trying to clock this. I don't think, because it wouldn't make sense, that they played any songs from the other two albums that they're going to play on other gigs that week, Infinity Land and The Vertigo of Bliss, because otherwise, if you're going to all three nights, as some people will, you'll get some duplicates in there. But they played like Howl, which is one of my favorite songs, which I was greatly surprised to hear. That was a delight. They played one of their biggest hits in Bubbles. That was a kind of closer before the encore. They closed on Stingin Belle, which ripped. They played one of the songs that very few people seem to know in the crowd. It was off of their recent-ish movie soundtrack album. It was actually pretty nice as a live experience. I quite liked that. A Whole Child Ago is a wonderful song. They played Witch's Cup off their most recent album. I think that was on Celebration of Ending. It's got a sort of big bandy feel to it, but there's a guy playing keyboard who sort of played synthesized brass with some of those punches. That was pretty joyful to experience live as well. And a couple other bangers that I was excited to hear again that I'd already heard before in Living is a Problem Because Everything Dies, which is one of their signature songs, really. The on and off kind of strange stab moments of accents that all of the three of them in unison will hit. You have to memorize exactly what the rhythms are. That was really cool to see live as ever. And they opened up with A Hunger in Your Haunt, which I don't think I've ever seen live. Maybe I have actually. I can't actually remember when I last saw them. But that was one of the better songs as well, for me at least. You know, what's great is this is spanning a huge amount of discography and time, and there is a consistency throughout that of quality and innovation, but also delivering on beautifully, you know, satisfying choruses and melodies and things. It was so impressive. It really was. And what is wild to think about is because they're doing 3 nights in a row, 3 different albums, and presumably 3 completely different second sets as well. That's 75 songs, unique different songs that they've had to learn and rehearse and play relatively faultlessly across 3 nights. Who does that? That's crazy. It's a wonderful gift for their fans to create such a unique experience as a pseudo thank you, I suppose, for all those decades of support that they've experienced there. It was a really impressive thing and a wonderful, joyful thing to experience as an audience member. And if the brilliance of that night was measured in how many times the crowd jumped up and down, I mean, masterpiece level, no doubt. It was a bit of a frenzy at times, but you could, looking around the room, you could see people weeping. You could see people, you know, just closing their eyes and raising their heads up to the sky. Like, it was one of those really emotional moments for some very big fans of this band, and a treat and a joy to have seen that live at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, which is a glorious venue and a lovely small intimate environment to have that with the incredible Biffy Clyro. And I will be scouring the internet in the next couple of days to find out what the other 2 gigs were like that I was not fortunate enough to get tickets for. I'm sure there's going to be some amazing moments within those as well. If you did also go to this Blackened Sky gig, then let me know in the comments what your experience was like. I'd love to kind of relive it through those as well. And if you weren't able to get a ticket to that one, hopefully I've been able to share some sense of what it was like and what happened during that evening. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more in future, then do make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thank you to everyone who does support this channel thus far. I try and go to as many gigs as I can and review them and share that experience here on YouTube. So thank you to those in Patreon for supporting there in particular. And do reach out on socials if you want to let me know of other gigs or amazing experiences you think are worth me checking out in future. But thanks for watching this. Hope you're well, and hopefully I'll see you in another video sometime soon.